the idea is very well explained. I'm just glossing over it because we got more stuff to talk about. But this is a terrific book as well. Another LeanPub one. I think they just finished it, but it's you're entitled to revisions as well as they come out. And as you kind of graduate from beginner level knowledge into more intermediate and expert level knowledge, this is a terrific book to pick up to learn how to go from just writing procedural scripts that you run yourself and then throw away to writing more modular, useful Lego blocks that you can assemble into different pieces and structures later as you move on. The Pester book is written by Don Jones again and Adam Bertram. Adam's a big proponent of testing code, which is what Pester is for. If you don't know, Pester is a domain-specific language. It's a module for testing PowerShell scripts. So say I had a script that was, I run it and I specify 6 users and it goes and deletes those 6 users, and that's what my script does. And I wanted to test it to make sure it works, but I don't actually really want to delete 6 users every time I test it. I can use Pester to automate that testing and to do it in a non-destructive, non-impactful way. And this is the book that goes from top to bottom all through Pester, from very beginner introductory concepts to very advanced features of Pester, and it talks about testing theory in general. So if you're not testing your PowerShell scripts right now, except by running them in production, you might want to take a look at this book and give it a read. Write some tests for your scripts, and then next time you change something, run the test again, make sure you didn't break anything, make sure it doesn't act in an unexpected way, and you'll be writing better PowerShell as a result of having read this book and following its advice. This one's a little bit of a fun, not a joke necessarily, but Become Hardcore Extreme Black Belt PowerShell Ninja Rockstar is, I think it's like $3 on LeanPub, and it's not really an educational book per se. It doesn't go through and impart a whole bunch of PowerShell knowledge, but what it does is it talks a little bit about careers and learning paths, and it tells you what you should know to be a junior level knowledge, if you're going to qualify yourself as being intermediate level knowledge, expert, and hardcore extreme black belt ninja rockstar status. And these are kind of the things you should know about PowerShell if you're going to be in any of those categories. So for $3, it's worth the read. It's an entertaining read nonetheless. Don has a pretty casual tone in the book, and it's pretty fun. Now, I wrote some too. Dave is in on these as well. Master PowerShell Tricks Volume 1 was the first book put out by MVPDays Publishing. I think Dave probably shouted the Volume 2 out at lunch. But this was put together by a bunch of different MVPs. And it's not procedural. It doesn't take you along a journey of learning. It is a collection of different tricks and tips that we as MVPs have assembled and put into a book for you. Last I checked, it was $3 for the online version, so pretty hard to beat that value. You're not necessarily going to go, oh, this is the most educational book I've ever read, but for $3, if you can go through it and look and say, hey, oh, I didn't know that, that's a good tip. Oh, I didn't know that, that's a good tip, and it saves you an hour of your time. I don't know about you, but my time is worth more than $3 an hour, so it would be a good investment for me.
Is that Canadian or American?
Canadian, I think. Master PowerShell Tricks Volume 2 is more of the same. It's not revision. It's brand new tricks and tips that aren't in the first one. And it is free right now for 72 hours. You can get your free e-copy today, Saturday and Sunday. And there's a few MVPs added to this one that weren't on the first one, I think. And there's, again, some really good content. It's more tips and tricks, and it's hard to beat the price right now, so I highly suggest going and downloading that. I think we're up close to 1,000 copies sold for free of that today, just in the first few hours of the promotion. And we're getting great feedback on it too, so bit of a shameless plug there. Check that one out if you guys are interested. And it'll give you an idea if you want to get the first one too or not. Social media. Let's move on from books into something more modern. There's obviously, everybody's got their social media network of choice, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or what have you. There's PowerShell communities on and spanning most social networks. Like you'll find people tweeting about or posting about PowerShell on Instagram. And if that's the preferred way for you to connect with other people in the community, great. I'm going to talk about 3 specific places to meet and discuss PowerShell though. And whether these are the ones that you prefer or not is kind of up to you. The first is Twitter. In general, there's a very vibrant, active community on Twitter that talks about PowerShell. Follow the hashtag PowerShell and you'll see tons of people. I have assembled a list of people that I vouch for and will tell you are quality people to go follow. So if you check out my Twitter page under lists, there's only one list, it's tech people. It's not all people who tweet about PowerShell, they also talk about Azure and server, and it's all pretty Microsoft-y, but the majority of them are PowerShell. And so if you're looking through, I love Twitter, I go on and I scroll through and I see these funny posts about cats. Well, there's also a whole lot of professional resources available there as well, and IT-related discussions to be had. So you'd be remiss not to at least check them out. And if you're going, hey, okay, well, who are all these people? Where do I check them out? You can get started with my list. And I'm even on it. The other that some people don't always think about is Reddit. Great, again, great diversion. I love going on and reading the jokes or whatever and looking at memes. But under our PowerShell, this is another active community that is pretty open and inclusive. Lots of MVPs on Twitter and in the Reddit. Willing to help you with problems if you post them and want to talk about them, or share scripts of their own for problems that they've solved and think that you might be interested in looking at. And it's a pretty inclusive community as well. It's not very intimidating to go in there and talk to people in the Reddit. Similarly, there is a PowerShell Slack channel run by Joel Bennett, who's another PowerShell MVP out of the US. You can invite yourself at slack.poshcode.org. This is, like the Reddit, it's a very active community. There's a bridge to a PowerShell channel on Freenode IRC. And there's thousands of people in that channel, usually only a couple hundred actually active at any given time. But again, very responsive. It's chat, right? It's Slack. So if you have a question and you can fit it into a Slack message or link to it in a Pastebin or Gist or something like that, fire up the Slack, go to the PowerShell Slack network. You can find channels on Azure, Exchange, related PowerShell, just general PowerShell help, testing, editors, you name it, there's somewhere on that Slack network for you to talk about it and almost undoubtedly get some answers or get some help, or share some answers and spread the wealth a little bit and contribute to the knowledge of others. So those are the only 3 social media networks that I wanted to talk about. Obviously there's lots else. There's Facebook groups and there's everything else. So you can check it out wherever your favorite social media destination is.
So we've got a question from one of our online viewers right now.
Oh?
Marcos from Indiana. He says, hey, Mr. Thomas Rayner, do you automate cats with PowerShell as well?
No, I try to avoid it. On their own, they're both great. You don't mix them though, because they can't type very well. They lack the thumbs. Thanks for that. The third out of 5 that I want to talk to you about is blogs. And again, everybody probably knows what a blog is. You work in IT, you've seen blogs before. But it can be challenging to find and subscribe to blogs that are perpetually presenting you with fresh content that's actually relevant, that you know is of quality, because anybody can go fire up and make a free WordPress site and put random stuff on it, like checkyourlogs.net, and you don't even know if it's good or not. It's Dave's blog. Here are some that I can promise you are of quality and that I'm standing in front of you vouching for. There's the Hey Scripting Guy blog. It's a Microsoft-owned property, and the blog itself actually predates PowerShell. There used to just be VB script and batch scripts and stuff like that on it, and as soon as PowerShell came out, it began to transition to a PowerShell exclusive blog. If you've looked up commandlets and Googled about PowerShell, you've seen this blog, whether you know it or not. You've seen it, you've hit the quick tips page, you've hit more in-depth articles, and you probably know about it already. Maybe you just don't necessarily know it by name and know it to bookmark it and or add it to your RSS reader. I am a somewhat frequent poster on that blog, so you can look for posts under tagged with my name. I got the award of honorary scripting guy in 2016, which was a big honor. It's going under a little bit of change right now because Ed Wilson, the scripting guy, retired this week actually, so it's a little bit unknown what's going to become of the blog in terms of regular content, but it's still going to be a place where MVPs can post blog series, and all the historical content on there is mostly pretty timeless, and it's a good one to get a hold of. The qualifications for being allowed to post to that blog are pretty high, so you can be confident that, and it's all technically reviewed as far as I'm aware, so you can be confident that any stuff that goes on there is, Microsoft says this is quality knowledge, and you are allowed to look at it and be confident that it's valid. PowerShell.org is a community-run website. It is not owned or run by Microsoft. It's run by the DevOps Collective, I think is their current name. It's a charitable organization in the US. They've got a more broad blog where people from the community can come post, whether you're an MVP or not. It's still reviewed and looked at to make sure it's good content. There's also a forum on PowerShell.org. I'm not talking about forums today, but obviously there's the TechNet forum as well. The PowerShell.org forum is pretty well trafficked. PowerShell.org is specifically popular among PowerShell MVPs. So if you have questions and you want an answer, look on those forums, look on the blog there, and you can be pretty certain that the content being shared there is pretty good too. PlanetPowerShell.com is a little bit different than a traditional blog. It's more of just an aggregator. You can sign up to have your blog put on with all the other blogs on Planet PowerShell. Go there and check it out, and you'll see, looks just like a big blog list, but it's really just taking from other people's blogs and aggregating them into a central location where you can check out a bunch of quality blogs all in one place. So there's no, it's not one specific person's blog, it's not one organization's blog, it's several different blogs amalgamated into one feed. A few more that I should shout out. CanITPro.net is not just a PowerShell blog. They also post about Azure and Windows Server and IoT and stuff like that. It's run by the Microsoft Canada Developer Experience team, who are a bunch of talented individuals who share really interesting content, sometimes as often as once a day, but usually not less than once a week. So it's a little varied in its pace, but again, this is a Microsoft-owned property, so everything that ends up there is vouched for by Microsoft. Even if it's stuff that MVPs are posting, comes from the community, comes from random employees within Microsoft, and it's another one that you guys should definitely check out. Mike Robbins, here he is again. He has been blogging. It feels like since before there was time, Mike Robbins has been blogging. He posts very frequently, and he posts top-notch content. It's a really good blog. He's committed to continuing blogging. He's got, I think by now he's over 700 or 800 posts. So there's tons of stuff out there, and he's been doing it a long time. So he really knows what he's doing with his blog. There's stuff there everywhere from beginner to intermediate to advanced concepts, and it's a good one to check out. Now finally, I have to shout out my own blog, obviously, Working Sysadmin, figuring stuff out at work. If that doesn't tell you what it does. I blog mostly about intermediate and slightly advanced PowerShell concepts. I share everything from like a quick tip on how to do a regular expression to detect phone numbers, to a huge series on how to migrate your Windows Certificate Authority from SHA-1 to SHA-2. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. It's kind of whatever I feel like posting. But it's almost exclusively stuff that I figured out while I was doing my job and didn't necessarily find a good resource out there already. Or it's stuff that people asked me in Slack and I thought, hey, that'd be a good post. So those are the blogs. About blogs though, it can be so much to stay on top of, right? It can be kind of overwhelming. I have all these bookmarks and I check them all daily, and that's a pain in the ass. What I use is an RSS reader called Feedly. It is free. You can sign up for it and sign in with Twitter or Facebook or probably a whole bunch of other services. And it will aggregate all of the different RSS feeds that you tell it to look at and give you one feed, nice and clean. If you remember Google Reader, it's a lot like that. And I have what is called an OPML file. It's an export of all the different blogs that I follow on my GitHub page. This is the file that you may want to download if you're looking for good blogs to get started with. I follow a whole lot more than just what I've shown you in the last few slides. And if you go to the presentation files repository on my GitHub page, it's the only other thing than the slides in this one. And it's an OPML file you can import into Feedly, and you can see the blogs that I am personally following. I update that semi-regularly, but it'll get you started, and you can add or remove blogs as you find that they fit your interests or not. There's also Azure stuff in there, there's server stuff in there, but it's all technically focused and Windows and Microsoft related for the most part. Some of it's just general cloud stuff too. But if you're interested in getting started with other blogs, you can see the ones that I follow personally. Video training is the fourth one I want to talk about, Pluralsight. Did you guys all get a Pluralsight voucher? They look like stickers. They got a code on the back for a 1-month trial of Pluralsight. It is a paid service. I think just out of the box for John Q. Public trying to get a subscription, it's something like $300 a year. But I gotta tell you, it's well worth it. It's, if you don't know what Pluralsight is, it's online training. They have the highest standards of quality imaginable for online training. Ask Dave, he's putting a course together right now, and I think he had to re-record 7 minutes of audio because there was a plane that flew overhead or something like that, and they could hear it with like supersonic earphones that he couldn't even hear at home. But yeah, the point is, really high quality content, constantly evolving and adding content. It's very learner focused. So you want to go in there and, hey, I want to see about PowerShell. I want to see about tool making. I want to see about pester testing. I want to see about managing Azure with PowerShell. And you can go there and they'll walk you through use cases and examples and take you on a bit of a journey to show you, hey, this is how you get started. This is kind of the path that you're going on. I show you it. I tell you about it, then I show you a demo. And it's put together by people who really know what they're talking about. They're experts in their field. And the quality of the videos themselves is very, very high. If you're interested in some free video training, there are PowerShell conferences that occur in the US, Europe, and Asia. These are the links to the YouTube channels that host the recordings. And so those recordings are on a bit of a best effort thing. They're not unlike the recordings that you're seeing here. If you go and look later on the MVP Days Facebook page or on Channel 9 for the MVP Days videos, they're recorded in sessions like this. They're presented by other MVPs and experts and Microsoft employees. So they're very high quality talks. They're very insightful and people who know what they're talking about giving them. But the recording quality isn't always there. But hey, they're free. So it's hard to argue with free, right? The conferences themselves, if you're interested in attending, I believe they typically run, the US one is in April, the European one I want to say is in May or June, but don't quote me on it, and the Asia one I think is a little bit later in the year. They're very popular conferences. You can learn everything there from more intermediate to expert level knowledge, and that's what you're going to see on those videos as well. And Channel 9 doesn't have a dedicated PowerShell learning track or anything like that, but lots of Microsoft employees and MVPs as well will put videos up on Channel 9, and you can search for them just by searching for PowerShell. And you'll see lots of different videos from qualified individuals who want to share knowledge with you. The reason that people like to put stuff up on Channel 9 instead of just throwing it on YouTube is the reputation that comes with it. To be allowed to post on Channel 9, you have to meet a certain criteria. And to put a video on YouTube, you need an internet connection. So kind of like the guy who throws up a WordPress site and says, you can fix all your PowerShell problems by installing Bash. That's not necessarily a fix. That's not the type of content that you're going to see on Channel 9 because it's put up by more invested individuals.
Like me.
There's other content in Channel 9 too, but look, if you look for the PowerShell stuff, you won't see a lot of stuff from Dave, so you should be all right.
I don't know if I like this session.
Yeah. It gets really negative towards you when it runs. Finally, practice. Practice makes perfect. This is a little bit of a softer one. This isn't a resource that you can take with you, but the point here is you need to look for opportunities to use PowerShell in your daily work. You need to actually make the investment, commit to learning it, set the time aside, and like I said, make the investment, because otherwise you're never going to learn it. You can read the book, you can watch the video, but if you never do it, one, you wasted your time on the effort you did put in, and two, it's that physical practice of actually performing the task that will ingrain it in your memory and give you the practice you need. You could read all the books about playing hockey and skating really fast, but until you actually lace up your skates and get out there, you're not going to improve that much. It can be tough because sometimes your boss is right over your shoulder, put out the fire, exchange is down, oh my goodness, fix it, fix it, fix it. Well, get the fire extinguisher and put the fire out, right? But go back, document what you did, write a script for it. Now next time Exchange explodes, as we know it always will, you can run the script and fix it rather than try to hose the thing down with the fire extinguisher. Practice is also sometimes hard to find. If you're doing a few repetitive tasks and you automate them, great. And now you're going, oh man, I don't even know what scripts I should write next. And it seems like most of my work is project oriented and I don't really do anything repetitive or that I could script. Go on to one of those social media channels, go into the Slack channel, and you'll see people asking, hey, how do I X, Y, Z, ABC? And maybe you know, maybe you don't. Figure it out. Then you're helping another person in the community and you're furthering your own knowledge by trying something new with PowerShell. So that was a bit of a quicker session because I'm not really showing you anything rather than just giving you stuff to take a look at. But thank you guys very much for coming out and enjoy the rest of your sessions. David's in here next talking about SharePoint, and then I'm in here again showing stupid PowerShell tricks, which is going to be a fun session. You can connect with me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and on my blog. And we have some time left over for questions, preferably about learning PowerShell, but anything PowerShell related you want to talk about. What time is the next one, David? 1:45. Yeah. So we got about 10 or 15 minutes here to talk if any of you want to. Otherwise, I'm around for the rest of the day, and I'll be around celebrating St. Patrick's Day with the crew afterwards. And thank you very much for coming out and enjoy the rest of the conference. Is there a button to hit on that to make it stop?